solutions. So day 5 of this unit, you worked on, solving radical equations. So you maybe solve something like the square root of x plus 25 is equal to 4, for example. And you talked about, how do we get rid of the square root? We square both sides. When we square both sides, we get x plus 25 is equal to 16. Subtract 25 from both sides, you get x is equal to -9. So our solution for this is -9, and you could always check it to make sure that it worked. Today, we're going to differ that up a little bit. Today, we're going to have quadratic solutions where you're going to have to use factoring in order to solve. So for example, we're going to look at something like the square root of -4x plus 32 is equal to x. And we're going to follow the same steps that you followed yesterday. Okay, first you're going to isolate the root, which in this problem, that is already done. The second part of it is we are going to square both sides to get rid of the square root. So I'm going to go ahead and square both sides. That's going to get rid of the square root and leave me with -x plus 32 is equal to x squared. But now you notice we've got a quadratic. We've got x squared. And remember when we talked about in the first semester, when we talked about if you get x squared, it means you're going to try to factor it using the x method. So again, if we get an x squared in there, we've got really 3 terms, we're going to try to use the x method. Well, in order to use the x method, we need to first set it equal to 0. So I'm going to move everything on the same side as the x squared. So to do that, I'm going to go ahead and add 4x to both sides. So plus 4x. And just to do it in one sweeping step, we're also going to subtract 32. Okay, so now I have 0 is equal to x squared plus 4x minus 32. So I've got a quadratic trinomial, so we're going to try the x method. Top is a times c, so -32. Bottom is 4. I've got a negative in the top number, so that means one's got to be negative and one's got to be positive. They have to have a difference of 4, so it looks like we've got -4 and +8. -4 plus 8 is 4, so that works. So we've got 0. The factored form for this is x minus 4 and x plus 8. Use the zero product property. So the zero product property, we set each of the factors equal to 0, and we solve. So you get x is equal to 4 and x is equal to -8. So those are my 2 possible solutions. Now I need to check those solutions to make sure that they both work in my original equation. So my original equation is the square root of -4x plus 32, and that is going to equal x. So anywhere I see an x, I'm going to replace it with a 4. So the square root of -4. So we've got -4 from up above. Come on, eraser. So -4, my x value is 4, plus 32, that has to equal 4. So -4, so -4 times 4, so that's the square root of -16 plus 32. That's the square root of 16. The square root of 16 is 4. So 4 does equal 4. So that means 4 is one of my solutions. Okay, now we're going to try the -8. And I think if you look at the -8, you might be able to see why this doesn't work. So we've got the square root of negative 4 times negative 8 plus 32. That has to equal negative 8. Well, that's 32 plus 32. And that's got to equal negative 8. Is that ever going to equal a negative number? No, it's not going to equal a negative number. Okay? In fact, it's the square root of 64 is equal to negative 8, and 8 doesn't equal negative 8. So negative 8 does not work. So therefore, negative 8 is not a solution. So we have to put an X through that. That's what we call an extraneous solution. It appears as if it works, but it doesn't. Okay? So our solution just for that one is 4. And that is it. Okay? Let's look at another example. Let's go the square root of 2x plus 14. Now outside of that is going to be minus 3 is equal to x. All right, step 1, isolate the root. Just like yesterday, isolate the root. So in order to isolate the root, that means we got to add 3 to both sides. So that's 2x plus 14, the square root of 2x plus 14 is equal to x plus 3. Uh-oh. It's a little different than the last one. Okay, we got to square both sides. But now when we square both sides, we got to put things inside parentheses. Remember what it means. So on the left-hand side, we're just left with 2x plus 14. On the right-hand side, we have x plus 3 squared. Well, remember what x plus 3 squared means. It means you have x plus 3 times x plus 3. So left-hand side is still 2x plus 14. But now that right-hand side, we either have to remember the process for squaring something, or we've got to FOIL it. We're just going to go ahead and FOIL it. X times x is x squared. Outside is plus 3x. Inside is plus 3x. Last is 9. Okay, so we're going to simplify this. So I'm going to go ahead and subtract 2x and subtract 14. So I'm going to subtract 2x and I'm going to subtract 14. Kind of combining two steps here probably, but that's all right. So we've got x squared plus 3x plus 3x plus 9x minus 2. Okay, so we've got 3x plus 3x is 6x minus 2x is 4x. So we've got x squared plus 4x. We're just combining these like terms. And now we're going to combine those like terms. And I believe that gives us negative 5. So we've got a quadratic trinomial. So we're going to try the x method. So negative 5 on the top, 4 on the bottom. It's negative on the top, so we've got one negative and one positive. I believe it's negative 1, positive 5. So the factored form, x minus 1, x plus 5 equals 0. So then remember we just said, what makes that equal 0? Well, if I let x equal 1, that makes that 0. What makes this 0? Well, if x is negative 5, that makes that 0. Okay, so we've got our two possible solutions. We need to check it. So we're going to start with negative 1. I'll do that right over. We'll start with 1, I mean. So we've got the square root of 2 times 1 plus 14 minus 3. That has to equal 1. So 2 times 1 is 2. 2 plus 14 is 16. So that's the square root of 16. Square root of 16 is 4. 4 minus 3 does in fact equal 1. So 1 equals 1. So that works. So I know x is 1. If we try the 5, negative 5, we got the square root of 2 times negative 5 plus 14 minus 3. That has to equal 1. So that's the square root of negative 10 plus 14. sorry, that has to equal -5. My bad. This should say -5 over here. I forgot to put this. It should be -5. Minus 3, so that's 4 minus 3. 4 minus 3 is 1. 1 does not equal -5. So since 1 does not equal -5, that is not a solution. So that doesn't work. So that doesn't work. So our only solution is 1 for that one. Okay, let's try one more, I believe. The next one, I'm just going to change the variable to k. That's all right. K is equal to 3 plus the square root of 2k minus 3. Okay, so step 1 is to isolate the square root. So we're going to subtract 3. So that's k minus 3 is equal to the square root of 2k minus 3. We're going to go ahead and square both sides. So again, this is k minus 3 times k minus 3 is equal to 2k minus 3. So kind of the fast way, that's k squared. Square the first 2 times a times b. So minus 6k plus 9. That's 2k minus 3. If you have to FOIL it out, I did that kind of fast. If you have to FOIL it out, go ahead and FOIL it out. I'm going to subtract 2k and add 3. So minus 2k plus 3. So that's k squared minus 8k plus 12 equals 0. Trinomial means to try the x method. We're going to try the x method. So we've got 12 on the top, negative 8 on the bottom. The top is positive and the bottom is negative, so it's negative and negative. So we've got negative 6 and negative 2. So k minus 6, k minus 2. So what makes k minus 6, 0? 6. What makes k minus 2, 0? 2. So our possible solutions are 6 and 2. We'll change colors here. Go back to our original problem. Check the 6 out. So we had, the original was k. Our k value is 6, is equal to 3 plus the square root of 2 times 6 minus 3. 2 times 6 minus 3. So that's 6 is equal to 3 plus 2 times, that's 12. 12 minus 3 is this, so that's the square root of 9. So that's 3 plus 3, which is 6. So 6 equals 6, so 6 works. Now we try 2. So 2 is equal to 3 plus the square root of 2 times 2 minus 3. So that's 2 is equal to 3 plus the square root of 1. So 2 is equal to the square root of 1 is 1. 2 is equal to 4. That doesn't work. So that's not a solution. So that's not a solution. So your only answer is k is 6. Okay, there it is. That's lesson 5A, day 6, solving radicals. Remember, follow your steps. Isolate the square root, square both sides, solve for x. And then once you've solved for x, the last step is to check your answers, looking for that extraneous solutions. Have a great day, everybody.